Something that's always kind of confounded me in popular music is people's inability to take humor seriously. And I think that's one of the things, like, why a band like Sparks isn't as big as the biggest bands in the world. Because they're fucking funny.
Okay, get a load of these statistics. 50 years in the music industry, 25 albums, 345 songs, unlimited genius. That is what the poster for the new Focus Features documentary, The Sparks Brothers, uses as an ad line. And then your favorite band's favorite band. And that is definitely the case after you see this nearly 2.5 hour, not quite, a documentary on the Sparks Brothers. Now, do you know who they are? Actually, the brothers are Ron and Russell Mael, the Mael brothers, but they've had different names in the beginning for their musical groups, the Urban Renewal Project, Hap Nelson, and finally came upon Sparks when musician Todd Rundgren took them under his wing and gave them new flight as Sparks, and there they have lived ever since, turning out all of this stuff. And now finally, this film really will tune you into who they are, because quite frankly, I didn't know who they were. They weren't on my radar at all, and I couldn't believe it. They've been around this long and have this many admirers in the music business and everywhere else. It took Edgar Wright, yes, your favorite filmmaker's favorite filmmaker, who is responsible for such gems as Shaun of the Dead and Baby Driver, among others, to take this on. A fan himself and interested in offbeat show business stories, to be sure. Knew a good one when he saw it, and that's what this is. The Sparks, the name of the group there, they blend art and rock. They actually are from Southern California. One of them born in Santa Monica, the other brother born in Culver City. They went to UCLA, studied film, wanted to get into film, but that led to music here, and the world of the MTV music video suited them so well as well for their songs, and many of their songs played obviously in this documentary, and a lot of them catchy after you listen. It takes a while. It's an acquired taste, particularly when you first hear them, because the lead singer here, Russell Mael, he has a very high falsetto, sounds weird, a little bit of Weird Al Yankovic meets Tiny Tim meets other kinds of singers, but really accomplished, no question. And then Ron, certainly the genius of the group in writing songs and everything else, playing the keyboards with his little Adolf Hitler mustache and deadpan personality. The two of them are just to die for here. Really an offbeat, odd couple, to be sure. That's what Sparks is, and no wonder they have so many fans. Even Paul McCartney, John Lennon has acknowledged them, and McCartney even imitated him in one of his videos. They are wild, and you can hear the influence here. So influential in musical sounds that have gone on over the course of the last half century, and that is what you get when you listen to these interviews that are sprinkled through this documentary from the likes of Flea, from Beck, Patton Oswalt, the comedian, is a big fan. Jack Antonoff, Bjork, the Go-Go's. You can really see the influence on the Go-Go's. And Jane Wiedlin is a very good interview subject here, and even hooked up with one of the brothers. She was so taken with them. They've also made forays into the motion picture business. For a long time, the great Jacques Tati, the great French filmmaker who shares their sensibilities for the absurd, they were going to collaborate, and it just never came to fruition as a movie. And they spent 6 years writing an original score for a Tim Burton movie that Burton finally dropped out of. A big disappointment. It never got made. Now, oddly enough, they have a movie. Finally, Sparks has a movie they've written the score for, and it's opening the Cannes Film Festival next month. That's a pretty good thing. It's called Annette, comes from director Leos Carax, and it stars Marianne Cotillard and Adam Driver. Maybe this will be finally their big moment here in the movies, but they still have conquered the music business year after year, decade after decade, by always being true to themselves and always mixing up their sounds. And they go from art glam type sound to punk before there was punk, 20s Charleston to 40s big bands to 80s electronic. hooked up with producer and musician Giorgio Moroder for one of their big hits. It became a #1 hit called When I'm With You. And they did that by accident when they were talking to a journalist who asked, what are they doing next? They said, oh, we're working with Giorgio Moroder. The journalist said, oh, he's a close friend of mine. He hasn't said a word about this. That's because they'd never met him. This led to a meeting, led to a collaboration, led to another chapter in their very rich and bizarre career, no question about it. Among their songs that I really like listening to them during this documentary, When Do I Get to Sing My Way, an homage to the Sinatra song. A Steady Drip, as recently as 2020, was a big hit on the British charts here. Of course, their big breakthrough was on the British television show Top of the Pops, and This Town Ain't Big Enough for the Two of Us launched them initially here, but they have really offbeat songs that are also featured here. One called Throw Her Away and Get Another One. It may not be the most politically correct thing, but they may not be the most politically correct group. They are just themselves real artists who love doing what they do, and that is why they have turned out so much music over this last half century and have so many people who are devotees of Sparks. And it's the kind of group here, they've been around almost as long as the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and others who we know so well. I just was astounded when I watched this documentary to say, I don't know who these guys are. Now I'm a big fan. You will be too. Edgar Wright has done a terrific job not making this a linear documentary or something predictable with a lot of talking heads, although there are a lot. He uses animation, he uses fast cuts, a lot of good editing techniques here, as typical of an Edgar Wright movie, to tell the story of the Sparks Brothers. And what a story it is. I say, go.